Good Wednesday morning. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Alicia Lewis. This morning, we're diving into a new report from Minneapolis police on the Annunciation school shooting and the 911 response. This, of course, as the community is preparing for a day of resilience tomorrow, 1 year since the deadly tragedy took place. Audrey Russo has the report and some never-before-seen evidence.
That's right. This report spans thousands of pages. It outlines the damage done to the church during the 2-minute-long shooting. It describes how long it took to load all the victims in the ambulance, which was under 20 minutes. And this document gives us a little more insight into the shooter. In interviews with the shooter's father and ex-girlfriend, both reported they had no concerns about the shooter's behavior. The shooter's father told the BCA that others did have concerns about their interest in airsoft guns. Now, the shooter took their own life after killing 8-year-old Fletcher Merkel and 10-year-old Harper Moisky. More than a dozen others were hurt. We spoke to a professor who studies the impact of school shootings on communities. She said reports like this one, while deeply disturbing, can provide victims some measure of closure.
I think a lot of people are still processing what happened, right? This was not that long ago. This was less than a year ago. It's a lot more than just the moment, the day it happened. It's the road afterwards, that healing journey, that recovery.
Now, this report does contain some large redacted sections, including the names of juvenile witnesses and victims. Back to you.
As we mentioned, tomorrow marks that 1 year since the tragedy. The community is calling it Annunciation Remembrance Day. Be sure to stick with KARE 11 for stories of resilience, both on air and streaming right here on our app. Today, a St. Paul man accused of $125,000 of Medicaid fraud will make his first appearance in court. He's one of 7 charged in what the Justice Department is calling the largest healthcare fraud takedown in the U.S. Court documents accuse Tremaine Lamar Jackson of defrauding the Minnesota Medical Assistance Program. According to the complaint, he claimed to provide more than 6,000 hours of services in Minnesota, including during a nearly 2-year period he was a basketball coach in Kansas. Jackson is charged with 8 felony counts of theft. Also happening today, 2 men convicted in the massive Feeding Our Future fraud scheme will face a judge for sentencing. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Minnesota, Ahmed Abdullahi Gari and Abdi Hakim Ali Ahmed both claim to be operating child nutrition sites in St. Paul. Both pleaded guilty last year to wire fraud and money laundering. Today, St. Paul residents will get a chance to weigh in on the use of flock cameras across the city. The City Council is hosting a special public meeting at 4:30. Right now, there's 12 flock cameras in St. Paul. Police run 2 of them, while Ramsey County Sheriff's Office runs the other 10. Supporters of the cameras say they help police solve crimes faster. However, others say they're concerned about who has access to the cameras and the data that they store. This morning, Wisconsin officials are monitoring air quality in one town after a natural gas leak. Take a look at this video. It's pretty crazy. This is drone video out of Saxon, which is about 2 hours east of Duluth. The leak came from an Enbridge pipeline. The company says an unoccupied semi-truck rolled into an open excavation site yesterday morning, hitting the pipe and releasing all of that gas. Thankfully, no one was injured, but as precaution, nearby homes were evacuated and the power was shut down. The sheriff's office has not shared if those evacuations were lifted. The U.S. and Canadian tariff trade battle is hitting a new level this morning. Canada is now planning to match U.S. tariffs dollar for dollar. It comes in retaliation to President Trump's newest 50% tariffs. Canadian officials announcing new levies of 15 to 50% on more than 700 American goods. Canada also signaling it would consider cutting some exports to the U.S., a move that could especially hurt here in Minnesota. And that's because our state has more imports and exports to Canada than any other country, exporting more than $5 billion in goods to Canada just in the last year. So if Canada cuts off some exports, it could include electricity, which could leave parts of Minnesota, New York, and Michigan in the dark. The new tariffs take effect on September 8th. New this morning, NBC News is projecting political newcomer Darlene Graham pulling off a win in South Carolina's Republican runoff for Senate against Congressman Ralph Norman. It was a political influence test for President Trump. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest.
Hi there. President Trump is framing the win for Senator Darlene Graham as a joint victory as he keeps demonstrating his power over the Republican Party in a midterm election cycle where his economic policies, if not his name, are on the ballot.
You know what? We did it!
Overnight, a win for Senator Darlene Graham in the South Carolina Senate race, powered by vocal support from President Trump, who celebrated a joint victory, demonstrating the strength of his endorsement.
South Carolina is truly Trump country.
Graham secured the Republican nomination over Congressman Ralph Norman, who had zeroed in on her lack of national political experience.
I hate it for the state. I really hate it for the state.
The appointed Senator Graham now faces Democratic nominee Annie Andrews in November, aiming to hold on to the seat long held by her late brother, Senator Lindsey Graham, who died 6 weeks ago.
It's just not the same without you here.
With the midterms now just 10 weeks away, the cost of living remains the central issue for voters, and the escalating trade war with Canada could push prices even higher in key states that rely on Canadian trade. Border communities like here in Washington state especially worried.
Tariffs like these are going to end up destroying small businesses.
Canadian officials vowing to match new U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods after negotiations broke down.
When the United States of America asked too much and offered too little, we made a choice. We chose Canada.
Starting September 8th, Canada slapping 25% tariffs on American appliances, dairy and fish, 50% on steel, aluminum, and paper. That after President Trump, who insists Canada has been ripping off the U.S., imposed a 50% tariff on about $20 billion worth of U.S. imports from Canada, from dairy to clothes, building materials, and hockey sticks. President Trump is also floating the idea of renaming Lake Ontario to Lake America, saying he doesn't think the U.S. will be doing much business with Ontario any longer. In Washington, I'm Alice Barr. Back to you.
Well, this morning, 2 people in Pennsylvania are dead after contracting measles, the first deaths from the disease in the U.S. this year. Measles cases in our country have been on the rise, with the CDC reporting more than 2,700 already this year. That's the highest in 35 years. Officials say 2 people who died in Pennsylvania were not vaccinated. Health experts blame declining vaccination rates for measles resurgence, which was considered eliminated in 2000. Measles is also spreading in parts of Iowa this morning. Health officials there are saying 17 cases have been confirmed. And this morning, they're identifying a pizza ranch in southern Iowa as a possible exposure site. The restaurant says it's increased cleaning to reassure customers. Right now, fans all over the world are remembering Dolly Parton less than 24 hours after she died following a short battle with cancer. As tributes pour in for the 80-year-old country music icon, Governor Tim Walz is ordering flags across the state to be flown at half staff. Megan McPherson's at the live desk with more reaction to the legendary singer's death.
Yeah, so just hours after Dolly Parton's estate revealed the icon had been diagnosed with cancer before her death, tributes now pouring in from across the world, everyone from musicians, entertainers, actors, former presidents. I'll show you those in a minute, but so many reactions from, again, around the world coming in since this news dropped yesterday. Taylor Swift sharing a heartfelt message calling Parton an extraordinary icon and writing, quote, "A world without Dolly doesn't feel possible, real, or right." Beyonce, Eminem, and Sabrina Carpenter are also among the many musicians and celebrities remembering Parton. And as I mentioned, several former presidents, including Barack Obama, George W. Bush, and Bill Clinton, also reflecting on her life and legacy. Parton's nephew released a video statement on behalf of the family, highlighting the doors Dolly opened for generations of artists. Here's a piece of what he had to say.
Dolly also opened doors for generations of singers, songwriters, musicians, and dreamers from every walk of life and across every continent. By her example, we believe that anything was possible. She never saw a door she couldn't open, and the doors she opened made and changed history.
President Donald Trump is also honoring Parton, saying that he will lower the American flag for 1 week in her honor. Governor Tim Walz also ordered the same here in Minnesota. Trump called her death a true loss for millions of people, writing, quote, "There has never been anyone like her and never will." Back to you.
And Parton leaving behind a legacy that goes far beyond music, famously dedicating much of her life to helping others. In 1995, she launched Dolly's Imagination Library in Tennessee, which mails books to kids for free with the goal of improving literacy rates. The Imagination Library now operates around the world, including right here in the Twin Cities.
Her father couldn't read, and so she just didn't think that was fair. And, she did what she could to make that not happen for other families.
And in lieu of flowers, Dolly's family is asking for online donations to the Imagination Library. Well, be sure to stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.